I got to say, the Prime Minister is in total denial and dangerous with it. You hear him complain today, disinformation about the voice. Well, today, early voting started on his voice, this plan for an Aboriginal-only advisory parliament in our constitution. The referendum will actually be in 2 weeks, less than, October 14. But I have to say the early signs for the voice are as bad as the polls say, and no wonder.
What are you trying to achieve? What's the end result?
I'm more concerned that it's going to separate our community rather than bring us all together.
We're not really being told what is actually changing.
I've never been a fan of identifying one race in a multicultural community. I'd like to think we're all equal. I'm an ex-serviceman and I serve for Australia. I didn't serve for a race or a gender or anything like that.
Those are people who cast an early vote, and just listen to the themes coming out there. It's exactly as we've been saying for a year and a half. People are worried about this plan to racially divide Australians. People are worried about the complete lack of detail about how this voice will actually work and make things better. And that is all on the Yes campaign. But Prime Minister Anthony Albanese today wasn't taking any responsibility for the collapse in support, with even 40% of Labor voters, by some polls, against his voice. No, he wasn't copping any blame because, it was all the No campaign's fault, you see. They were telling lies.
What we've had is a whole lot of disinformation.
Oh, really? The disinformation is from the No campaign? Because the Yes people, they're angels, yes?
The feedback that I've had, certainly over the weekend, is people have noticed the positive nature of the Yes campaign compared with some of the negativity that is there in the No campaign.
Well, actually, let's do a little fact check, because the truth is exactly the opposite. And what we've seen in the last few days from the Yes campaign tells you everything. We've already had Yes campaign leaders shout abuse at people who disagree with them, you know, that they're racists or they're liars or they're just stupid.
And their strategy was to find a black fella to punch down on other black fellas.
They're the ones who are spewing the racism.
Well, since then, it's actually got worse. And it's not just that tiresome abuse of position and power by Yes campaigners, like all those business leaders, etc. This time, by the way, a performer in the AFL Grand Final entertainment, turning herself into a walking billboard for the Yes campaign. Or this rant from a touring musician, Mark Rebecate, in Adelaide last week.
Vote yes on the mother proposition to include Aboriginal voices.
Oh, that's become par for the course. But I mean now the sheer nastiness. You take the attack yesterday on Warren Mundine, one of the leaders of the No campaign. It was an attack from the Guardian Australia newspaper, very left-wing editor Lenore Taylor, excitedly tweeting that one of Mundine's daughters says his opposition to the voice is not morally right. Well, you know, whoopee. Dude, let's stir up some family strife, dig around and you can find someone, I guess. One reader then who claims to be academic, by the way, and a gay Christian, so Christian of him, he jeered that Mundine is not only doing a good job of dividing the nation, seems like he's succeeding in his family too. Ha, ha, ha. While another sneered that Mundine is now married to a whiter-than-white wife, as if it was some kind of race traitor. I mean, that kind of low-rent rubbish. And I know there's some on the other side as well, but this is from people claiming they're more virtuous, is disgusting. Now, for a start, I mean, plenty of Aborigines in the Yes campaign have also married white people, like Indigenous Australians Minister Linda Burney. And so. Then there was this abuse from Victoria's Tradescore Council. No, not all voters are racist. Not all No voters are racist, but all racists will vote No. And that cheap shot actually turns out to be false. And it's not simply because every Yes voter is in fact voting for racism, for a change to a constitution that gives one race more say than everyone else. There's also really inflammatory racism like this from the father of the voice, Yes activist Noel Pearson, stirring up anti-white racism among migrant communities last week. I never believed I'd see this kind of racism in mainstream politics in this country.
Are you with the mob from the UK? Are you kind of honorary settlers? Because some of you are the wrong colour. Or you don't come from Northern Europe. You come from Africa, you come from Asia, you come from South America, you come from all over the joint. You come from China. I say to them, where do you fit in Australia?
You're the wrong colour to hold that opinion? I mean, this is just all so shameful. Is this really the positive campaign that the Prime Minister was talking about today? You remember, Noel Pearson, he isn't some fringe wacko sounding off of the corners of the internet. He is actually one of the top leaders of the Voice campaign, a designer of the Voice. So no wonder many voters are wondering what the real agenda is with this thing. Is it anti-white racism? Is it something else? Yet the Prime Minister is still saying, well, no, it's the No campaign that's negative. And really, I mean, seriously, I've already shown you before the positive messages from No campaign leaders Jacinta Nampijinpa-Price and Warren Mundine, who both argued that our future must be as Australians together and not as races apart. But let me finish by introducing you to someone I really should have given more attention to a former soldier and officer I first met about 6 or 7 years ago, so I'm a bit cross that I hadn't called him up before this. His name is Wesley Aird. He's a director of the Centre for Indigenous Australians. He's been making a series of videos on YouTube, you know, sitting down with a nice cup of tea, exploring the issues, not inflammatory, just very calmly, the issues raised by the Prime Minister's voice. Like, for a start, who is it really for? Who is this voice for when you've got so many people like Wesley Aird, who have got both white and Aboriginal ancestors, and when so many people who insist they are Aborigines are fakes, according to Wesley Aird, as many as a quarter.
There is no sensible limit to the self-application for genealogical descent. It begs the question, if a person is shopping for an ancestor, how many generations can they go back before a person's culture has lost its poignancy? And so Indigenous identification is open to abuse. There is a ton of self-identification, and often it goes unchallenged. Some Indigenous people believe there are up to a couple of 100,000 fakes. I am of Aboriginal descent, but what if I want to tick a box that says I'm Australian?
I want to play just one more grab from Wesley Aird's videos. They're terrific. Go and look him up on YouTube, because this one gets to the heart of what's so pathetic about the Voice and the Prime Minister's other big call, by the way, to also create a commission, Makarrata Commission, to do so-called truth-telling about our past. And you've got to ask, what good does any of this do?
The Truth-Telling Commission will not take any interest in anything good that has ever happened to Indigenous Australians. Its purpose is limited to just the bad stuff. Now, that's a lot like picking at a scab, knowing full well that you're not helping it heal.
No, none of this does help us heal. And Prime Minister, I reckon Australians are on to that saddest fact of all about your voice. Do not blame misinformation if it's sinking like a stone. It's just your voice. It's all wrong.